For the last decade, the global energy discourse has been dominated by a single, seductive molecule: hydrogen. Politicians and tech moguls have sold it to us as the Swiss Army knife of decarbonization. They promised a miracle fuel that could power our cars, heat our homes, and run our heavy industries, all while emitting nothing but pure, drinkable water. It sounds perfect. It sounds like the silver bullet we have been waiting for to bridge the gap between intermittent wind and solar and the heavy demands of modern civilization. But there is a problem. When you peel back the glossy marketing brochures and look at the raw physics, the hydrogen dream begins to look less like a savior and more like a thermodynamic trap. The foundational challenge of the hydrogen economy is not political. It is physical. It is a collision with the uncompromising laws of thermodynamics. Unlike electricity, which we can store directly in a battery with incredible fidelity, hydrogen requires a punishing series of conversions. We have to take electricity, use it to split water molecules, compress the gas to bone-crushing pressures, transport it, and then convert it back into electricity. Each one of these steps acts as an entropy tax. We are paying a penalty to the universe for every transformation, while a battery retains 85 to 95% of the energy you put into it. A hydrogen system bleeds energy at every turn. Let's trace the losses. The moment you start the process of electrolysis, passing current through water to separate oxygen from hydrogen, you immediately lose 20 to 30% of your energy. That is just the entry fee. Once you have the hydrogen, you face a new problem. It is the lightest element in the universe. It takes up a massive amount of space. To make it useful, you have to compress it to 700 bar. That is 700 times the pressure of the atmosphere at sea level, or freeze it to minus 253 degrees Celsius. This compression and liquefaction consumes another massive chunk of energy. By the time this fuel reaches a vehicle and is converted back to motion, you have lost nearly 70% of the green energy you started with. But efficiency is just the first hurdle. The second is the molecule itself. Hydrogen is an escape artist. It is so small that it can leak through seals that are watertight and airtight. Even worse, it attacks the infrastructure designed to hold it. This phenomenon is called hydrogen embrittlement. The atoms diffuse into the crystal lattice of high-strength steel, congregating at the grain boundaries. They create internal pressure that destroys the metal's ductility. A pipeline that is safe for natural gas can suddenly shatter like glass when filled with hydrogen. This means we cannot simply swap fuels. We would have to rebuild the backbone of our energy grid with thicker, specialized, and vastly more expensive materials. The cost implications of this metallurgical nightmare are staggering. NIST researchers have calculated that dedicated hydrogen pipelines can cost 68% more than their natural gas equivalents. If we look at subsea transmission, the numbers are even worse, reaching upwards of $7 million per kilometer. And you cannot just pump hydrogen through existing gas lines without consequences. Because hydrogen has a lower volumetric energy density, roughly 1/3 that of methane, you have to pump it faster and at higher pressures to deliver the same amount of energy. This increases the stress on the metal, accelerating the embrittlement process. We are effectively trying to transport a fuel that eats its own container. The rubber meets the road and fails in our cities. For years, mayors were told that hydrogen buses offered the best of both worlds: zero emissions with the range of diesel. But real-world trials in Europe have exposed this as a fallacy. In January 2022, the city of Montpellier, France, canceled a high-profile project to buy 51 hydrogen buses. Why? Because they did the math. The mayor, Michael Delafosse, realized that the operating cost would be nearly €1 per kilometer for hydrogen, compared to just 15 cents for battery electric buses. Even with millions in subsidies, the daily burn rate of cash was unsustainable. It wasn't just expensive, it was fiscal suicide. Montpellier wasn't an isolated incident. In Wiesbaden, Germany, the city returned 10 hydrogen buses after just 1 year. They cited operational complexity and the frequent breakdown of their €2.3 million refueling station. These stations are not like gas pumps. They are complex chemical plants that must operate at pressures equivalent to being 7 kilometers beneath the ocean. They break constantly. The pumps froze, the compressors failed, and the buses sat idle. When you compare this to the reliability of a battery electric bus, which simply plugs into the grid, the hydrogen advantage evaporates. We are paying a 41% premium for a technology that spends half its life in the repair shop. As the costs of green hydrogen produced from renewables remain high, the industry has pivoted to a compromise. Blue hydrogen. This is hydrogen made from natural gas, where they promise to capture the carbon emissions. But a bombshell study by Robert Howarth and Mark Jacobson suggests this might be a climate trap. The problem isn't the carbon dioxide, it's the methane. To make blue hydrogen, you need a massive natural gas supply chain. Methane leaks from these wells and pipelines are inevitable, because methane is a potent greenhouse gas, 80 times more powerful than CO2 in the short term. Blue hydrogen could actually have a higher carbon footprint than simply burning coal. It is a solution that might actually accelerate the problem it claims to solve. However, the report is not entirely a eulogy for hydrogen. There is a path forward, but it doesn't rely on wind or solar. It relies on the atom. Enter pink hydrogen. The fundamental flaw of green hydrogen is that the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow, leaving expensive electrolyzers sitting idle. Nuclear power solves this. With a capacity factor of over 90%, nuclear plants can run electrolyzers 24 hours a day, providing the consistent baseload supply that heavy industry demands. At the 9 Mile Point nuclear plant in New York, this is no longer theory. They are already using nuclear electricity to produce hydrogen on-site, decoupling the fuel from the chaos of the weather. This points to the true future of hydrogen, the hub model. Instead of trying to pipe this difficult gas into everyone's home or car, we produce it right where we need it. Imagine a nuclear reactor sitting next to a steel mill or a chemical plant. The hydrogen is produced and consumed in the same square mile. No expensive pipelines, no embrittlement risks, no leakage during transport. We stop treating hydrogen as a universal fuel for everything and start respecting it as a high-value industrial chemical. It is a pivot from a consumer fantasy to an industrial powerhouse. There is one sector, however, where batteries simply cannot compete: the high seas. You cannot put a battery on a container ship crossing the Pacific. It would be too heavy. This is where hydrogen finds a second life in the form of ammonia. By bonding hydrogen with nitrogen, we create a fuel that is liquid at manageable temperatures and holds far more energy by volume. The maritime industry is betting big on this. Companies like Man Energy Solutions are racing to build ammonia-fueled engines. It sounds like the perfect fix for shipping, which pumps out 300 million tons of heavy fuel oil emissions every year. But ammonia comes with a deadly catch. Ammonia is highly toxic. A leak on a ship isn't just a fire hazard. It is a chemical weapon event. Ammonia slip, the release of unburned fuel, poses a severe risk to marine ecosystems and the crew on board. Furthermore, burning ammonia can release nitrous oxide, a greenhouse gas 300 times more potent than CO2. While we solve the carbon problem, we introduce a toxicity problem. It is a high-stakes gamble, trading one environmental sin for another, requiring complex catalytic scrubbers and rigorous safety protocols to keep the ocean from turning into a dead zone. If toxicity wasn't enough, pure hydrogen offers a terrified safety paradox of its own: the invisible fire. Hydrogen burns with a pale blue flame that is nearly impossible to see in daylight. It emits very little radiant heat, meaning you can walk right into an inferno without feeling it until your clothes catch fire. This led to a legendary safety protocol at early NASA facilities called the broom test. Technicians would walk through the facility holding a straw broom out in front of them. If the broom spontaneously burst into flames, they knew they had found a leak. It is a chilling reminder that we are dealing with a molecule that doesn't just want to escape, it wants to hide. While modern sensors have replaced the broom, the risk remains. Hydrogen has an extremely wide flammability range and an ignition energy so low that a static spark from your finger is 10 times more energy than needed to start an explosion. In enclosed spaces, like a garage, or a refueling station, a leak can transition from a fire to a detonation in milliseconds. This is the invisible danger that haunts the safety engineers designing the infrastructure of the future. It forces us to ask, are we ready to put this substance in every gas station and garage in America? The future of hydrogen has become a battleground for billionaires with opposing visions of reality. On one side, you have Elon Musk, who famously dismissed hydrogen for cars as fuel cells. His argument is simple math. Why accept the efficiency losses of hydrogen when batteries are superior? The market currently agrees with him. But on the other side is Andrew Forrest, the Australian iron ore magnate. He has bet his company's future on green hydrogen, calling it the miracle molecule that will save us from lethal humidity. He plans to produce 15 million tons by 2030. But the Forrest dream is hitting a wall of economic granite. In mid-2024, his company, Fortescue, announced 700 job cuts and scaled back its hydrogen ambitions. Projects touted as the world's largest are being delayed or abandoned because the costs just don't align with the market. Critics point out that to meet these massive hydrogen targets, we would need a grid-shattering amount of renewable electricity, more than the entire capacity of mid-sized nations, just to make the fuel. The hype cycle is crashing into the hard ground of execution. So, is hydrogen a dead end? No, but it is not the universal key we were promised. It is a specialized tool for a specific set of jobs. It will not power your sedan, and it will not heat your home. Heat pumps and batteries have already won that war. But for the hard stuff, the green steel, the massive container ships, the industrial chemical processes, hydrogen is indispensable. The future isn't a hydrogen economy. It's an electron economy, where hydrogen serves as a critical, high-value niche player for the things that batteries simply cannot do. We are moving from the era of hydrogen hype to the era of hydrogen reality. It is a transition defined by data, not dreams. The Broom test reminds us of the dangers, the thermodynamics remind us of the costs, and the failed bus projects remind us of the limits. Hydrogen is not the Swiss Army knife. It is a scalpel, and like any sharp instrument, it can save us, but only if we handle it with precision and use it exactly where it belongs.